Hello and welcome, I'm Arumba, thank you for joining me. Let's play some more of our tutorial series for Crusader Kings 2. We'll keep special interest on Gilla here, see if anything happens with him. He's very upset with us for having revoked his title. Now, you might be wondering if it makes sense to revoke the city of Cork as well. You know, it made sense for the bishopric. Maybe it would also make sense for the city. Well, the current city taxation is at 25%, so it's making roughly the same amount as what we would make if we held it ourselves, although our steward would increase taxes by us owning it directly. The levy is at minus 35%, so we can have up to 65% of the levy. Now there is a disparity or discrepancy between two of these numbers. Notice how the levy of the city is 200 out of 200. But when we go to the military tab, and then we look at this vassal, and we see here that he could provide us with at most 100 troops, you might be immediately wondering, well, why is it 100 when it says here that he's got 200? Well, again, we got to go back in history a bit. When the game first came out, every single vassal would provide you with a direct levy, meaning that if you raised their levy, you were pulling directly from their levy. And it caused it to be like, okay, it was fine if you had 3 or 4 provinces or 3 or 4 counties. But when you had, like, say, West Francia, and you would raise a levy, and you would have 40 troops here, 50 troops here, 100 troops here, it would just be every single province would raise up a few men. It was just chaotic. And if you got even bigger, let's say you were the Byzantine Empire, imagine trying to raise and then rally all of your troops from every single province. So what they did is they provided the game with this thing called a liege levy mechanic. And the limit is that you can only raise 50% of the direct vassal levies. So it reduced the overall amount of levy that you could raise, but it also made it so that it was easier. And because levies were getting too big at one point in the history of Crusader Kings 2. So that's where that discrepancy is. So you can see then that revoking the bishopric is actually very significant, because not only are we getting troops we would have never gotten, but even if that guy did like us more than the Pope, we would have only gotten half of the levy. So we ended up with 212 troops, which is quite nice. So now let's see if this is updated yet. It still has not yet updated. I'm fairly certain that it still does. Yeah, we got 415 here and 212 here. That's certainly more than 500. So, let's go ahead and let the game run for a bit. What we're waiting for right now is a fabricated claim on Thomond. We can go attack him. We would also like to obtain some money. Hey, Gilla Kolim has become court chaplain for Sen of this guy. So because of his really high learning, he became the court chaplain for our neighbor. So he is the court chaplain of Thomond now, spreading God's work. Now, let's talk about plotting. Ooh, hey, a fun event. I'm starting to think that Princess Ermintrude might fancy me. This is without fail, like, the thing that makes Crusader Kings 2 so engaging and crazy and storytelling-esque. So I married Princess Hildegard of West Francia. She's my wife. She's 16. I'm 47. I'm turning into a dirty old man, basically, with this age gap. You know the saying in real life that there shouldn't be like more than 9 years between you and your wife or something like that? Well, 16 and 47, that's more than 9 years. Anyway, we're lustful, which means that we're going to get events like this that allow us to try to make a move on other characters. Now, coincidentally, it has chosen Princess Ermintrude of West Francia as the target. She is 17, and she is our son's wife. Let's make a move and see if we can go sleep with our son's wife. Let's see what she has to say about that. I went to her chamber and gave her a good tumble. It's good to be the Earl. So now she is our lover. Well, what's a lover? Well, right now in the current version of Crusader Kings 2, you're able to have up to 5 lovers, which are characters who are not your spouse, that you have regular fun times with and have the likelihood of making babies with. it's just incredibly comical that it's our son's wife that we're sleeping with. And we also get a massive, massive modifier, plus 75, because we love each other. We're in love. So, and our son has no clue that this is happening. We're hiding it from him. He is envious, which is hilarious, because we're sleeping with his wife. But let's say that we end up with a child. Well, we'll get an event that will pop up and say, do we want to claim it as our own, or do we want to just pretend like we don't know whose it is? And if that happens, then our son is going to think that it's his child, but it's really going to be ours, which is clever. It's so clever. Very, very clever. Anyway, you go collect taxes, my boy. I'm going to spend some time with your woman. It's good to be Earl. Now, let's talk about plotting. Plotting is on the Intrigue tab. And you'll see here it says click to choose a plot, and then it says there are currently no suitable plots available. You might be led to believe then that there are currently no suitable plots available, but you would be wrong. There are always plots available, most notably the kill plot. The kill plot is by far the most common plot that you should be doing in this game. If you ever watch like the video that's like an advertisement for Crusader Kings 2, it talks about how Crusader Kings 2 is a game of intrigue and combat and warfare and all that, but most notably intrigue. Killing people is just what you should do, always. You should always be thinking, if someone were to die, how could it benefit me? So for example, let's say we're looking at Thomund, the person that we're trying to attack soon. We can take a look at this character and see his martial score is 3. Which means that his personal levy is really reduced because of his crappy martial skill. That's good for us. But let's say that he was really good with martial, maybe we would want to kill him, so that his crappy son would take over, and then we could put this province, or this county, into a position where there's someone with poor martial score. Now, in this case, his son actually has better martial score than he does, so we would prefer for him to stay in charge, so there's no benefit. But, let's say, for example, we want to try to inherit some territory. Is there any way that we might benefit from somebody in West Francia dying? Well, we married these two. We made Princess Ermentrude and Princess Hildegard. Now, there is Prince Carloman. There's King Louis the Stammerer, who currently controls Aquitaine. How could we benefit by any of these characters dying? Well, to really understand how that's going to affect us, we need to talk a little bit more about succession law. So, again, if we end up not letting the game run, I apologize, but there's just a lot to cover. How does succession work? Well, there are two sections to the succession law screen. You have gender laws and succession laws. 90% of the time or more, succession law is going to be what you care about. Very rarely will gender law affect you. And that's because almost every country or every province or realm or whatever you want to call them starts off with agnatic, cognatic gender law. So if you just read the tooltip, it will tell you what it means. The titles of the ruler are divided among his children, with the oldest getting the primary. If the ruler has no children who can inherit, this law defaults to primogeniture. Actually, this is talking about Gavelkind. We want to read about the... Oh, that's interesting. It doesn't actually say anything. Oh, no, it says it at the very end there. Women can inherit, but only if there are no eligible males. So, agnatic, cognatic is women can inherit, but only if there are no eligible males. If we had agnatic, only males can inherit. Women could never inherit. And if we had absolute cognatic, women inherit on the same grounds as men. This would be important if you had something like, say, Gavelkind, because then if you had an elder daughter, she would inherit the primary title, and the sons could inherit secondary titles. So there is that. We're just going to leave it on agnatic, cognatic, and probably never change it. Now, the actual succession law... actually, one more thing. There's a couple other types of potential gender law, most notably down in Navarra with the Basque culture group. They can have something called enatic succession, which is where women inherit before men. It's very rare, and it's one of the only places that you can do it. But if you ever want to play as a female, like, matriarchy, then the Basque culture is what you would want to use. And to see an idea of that, you want to look at the culture map mode. You can see that Basque is right around here. Basque, Bosque, something like that. So onward toward some of this other succession law discussion. We're in Gavelkind. The advantage to Gavelkind is that you have a 30% larger domain. This is a modifier that gets multiplied by your other bonus. Right now we're getting no Gavelkind succession bonus because our overall limit is too small. We have a base domain limit of 1, plus 1, and then it has 30% bonus. You know, we don't have much going on there. If we had a larger domain limit than that, it would say Gavelkind succession plus 1, or Gavelkind succession plus 2. So right now we're not getting any benefit for being on Gavelkind. Unfortunately, Gavelkind splits up your realm. If you have too many sons, then you'll see all of your hard work get split up, which can be disappointing depending on how you're trying to play. Seniority succession. The oldest member of the dynasty inherits all titles. Your oldest child will greatly disapprove of this, but all other members of the dynasty will approve. Seniority succession can work well as a counter to Gavelkind. So if all of the lands in your country have gotten just split up with cousins and nieces and nephews and uncles, and it's just all over the place, switching to seniority succession for 50 years can unite it all and bring everything back under control of the king or your character. Primogeniture is what most new players really like the most because it just keeps everything the way that you have it. The oldest child of the ruler inherits all titles. And that's it. So whatever you own, your son will own. If you have 5 sons, doesn't matter. Eldest son inherits everything. It's just the simplest, straightforward thing. The problem with it is that, let's say that your first son is an imbecile, like literally an imbecile, like he's a dumb character with the imbecile trait and no stats, and you have a second son who's a genius. Well, you can't kill your son directly anymore. You can't plot against your children. You used to be able to. That was fun. But now you can't. So, unfortunately, you have to arrange for his death in another way. Elective monarchy is where every character in your court that is above a certain rank is allowed to vote. The ruler and each lower rank vassal. So, for example, if you are a duke, then you get a vote and your counts get a vote. If you are a king, you get a vote and your dukes get a vote, but counts do not. If you are an emperor, kings get a vote and you get a vote. It's not going to allow everyone to vote, but they get to vote on who they want to be the heir. Now, if your vassals like you, they're going to vote for whoever you vote for. If they hate you, they're going to vote for whoever they have the highest opinion of, which is generally going to be the person with the most diplomacy and prestige. So the risk to elective succession is that you could lose control of your top title. Let's say you're the king of West Francia and you've got elective succession. You might lose the title of king of West Francia and just be relegated to a ducal title. Then hopefully in the next election you could get it back. But the advantage to elective monarchy is that, again, go back to that situation where you have the imbecile first son and a really good second son. We just vote for your second son. You pick the best of the crop. So as long as you are educating your children to have high diplomacy and try to give them good prestige, then elective monarchy is a very safe succession law, and generally the one that I lean toward the most. Tanistry is generally only available in this area of Ireland. The ruler and all vassals at 1 and 2 ranks below can nominate an heir, the Tanist, from among the members of the ruler's dynasty. Vassals will tend to favor older members from other branches. So this is essentially the same thing as elective, except that it's only within your family that they can vote. Again, this is unique to the Irish, I believe. There are some other succession laws out there, like you're playing as a republic, you've got... It's similar to elective succession, and you've got open succession in the Sunni territory, which is where the character that has the most power inherits. So whoever the sultan gives the most land to becomes the next sultan, that type of thing. But it's kind of outside the scope of this character. So we've talked about succession law, right? Succession law is important to understand if you're trying to decide who to kill. To see another country's succession law, you can hover right over this thing here, and it'll say, Line of Succession, Agnatic Gavelkind. So we can see that West Francia is under Agnatic Gavelkind, which means that if he were to die, his first heir is Lewis Carling. To find Lewis Carling, it's most likely going to be this guy, but it could be any other Carling with the name Lewis. And the fact that there are 2 Lewis Carlings is not a typo. It means that there is another Lewis Carling somewhere that would inherit. Now, to find him, the easiest way would just be to use the character finding tool, and then just search for Carling, or Lewis. Lewis, not spelled that way. And we can see here, there's Lewis, Prince of Aquitaine, Lewis, King of Aquitaine, and Lewis, King of England, of Italy, all Carlings. So it's saying that these are the people that would inherit. Lewis and then Lewis. They're not very clever with their naming. Now, back to plotting. If we wanted to advance our own dynasty onto this throne, we did marry into their family, but she and all of, well, not she, but all of our children between us are going to become our dynasty. They're not going to be Carlings, so they're not going to have any kind of chance of inheriting West Francia, unless, unfortunately, if for some strange reason, all of the Carlings were to die. If there weren't any available Carlings or Lewises, then it would go to someone else that would be related to West Francia. So, for example, if we were to try to kill this guy, then we could potentially advance our own dynasty in this direction. Now, notice how I mentioned that there's no plot available here, but you can always plot to kill anyone except for your own children by clicking on a character and then clicking this choose a plot button and then finding it right there. Kill King Louis the Stammerer. Earl, whatever our name is, has decided it is time for King Louis II to depart this world. It says initial plot power 42.2%, possible plot power 163. So we're going to go ahead and choose that, and we will take a break here and then talk a little bit more about how plot power works and see if we can kill this guy. So thanks for watching, everyone. I do look forward to seeing you in the next video, and eventually we will get through the first year of the game. Thanks for watching. See you soon.